This channel makes up to $13,000 a month producing music albums people listen to literally millions of times. And that's also what this channel does for jazz, these channels for lo-fi, and these channels too. So I built this AI system that creates those same videos for you completely on autopilot. You just give a prompt for the genre of your album, dictate how many songs you want, and it generates an entire video album fully edited, timestamped, and even auto-published to YouTube.
For children blending bright melodies.
And all of those were made by this automation that turns 5 hours of work into 5 minutes and at the lowest cost possible today. So if you want to learn how to automate the new SUNO V5 model for incredible sounding music, learn a new auto editing framework that builds these videos for you, and how to do it all with a no-code automation tool that anyone can pick up, then watch till the end to get a skill that's not only useful today, but foundational for where AI content creation is headed. Let's get started. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Jay. I spent a decade in creative and marketing work and half a decade leading data teams, and now founded our AI solutions group and RoboNuggets, our education arm, where we have several hundred members, all AI practitioners across the globe. And here, our mission is to make creating with AI easy to learn regardless what your background is, with a wealth of lessons that most people join for, but most members stay because of the community that we have built. Alright, so for context, in case you didn't know, the SUNO V5 AI model just launched a few weeks ago, and it is now, I believe, the most advanced way to generate music with AI today. And you can pretty much hear it from the examples we gave earlier, right? Now, when you automate SUNO with this automation workflow, you unlock a bunch of use cases. You can do music production for clients or events. You can save time as a video editor by instantly generating background music, say for your or your clients' YouTube videos. Or you can also run your own music-focused YouTube channel like the examples we gave earlier. And if you want to hear exactly what this system creates, you can check out the sample video that I linked in the description below, which to get this almost hour-long video with 20 songs, what I just did is fill in this form with the theme that I want. In this case, it was pixel music. I asked for 20 tracks. And the workflow will automate most of the work, including song creation, video stitching, and even publishing to YouTube if that is what you're after. And this system, we built it in n8n, which if you're new, n8n is a no-code automation tool similar to Zapier or Make.com. But the great thing about it is if you have this template, which you can just download here if you're part of the community, and you can import that into n8n, and it will build that automation for you from scratch. But if you want to learn and follow along, then don't worry because I'll be going through this node by node as well. Because the framework of what we'll set up is broken down into steps, where first we'll arrange the inputs. Then step 1 will be to load the image we'll use in the final video. Then we'll create the music itself. We'll load or ready the songs so that we can combine them together in this output section to produce the final video. And to start, just go ahead and create a new workflow. And the first step we'll add is going to be a form trigger. So when we add this trigger, basically the automation will run whenever we submit this form. And the way this works is you just give it a title and a description, quite similar to when you create like a Google form, for example, and then you just add a question here. So just to illustrate, the first field we'll name as theme, and then just to guide the user, we'll put a placeholder there and set it as required. So now when we execute this step, what will happen is it will open up a form where whatever you type here will be submitted and loaded into your automation. So we'll just enrich that form and add more questions so that by the end of it, we have a question for the theme. We have a field here where you can describe your music. We have a number field where you can type in the number of songs you want to create for this run, and an option for you to declare if you want songs that are instrumental, so you'll toggle true, or if you want songs with lyrics, then you'll choose false. So for this trial, what we'll test it with is pixel music just to see how that sounds. We gave it a description here, which near the end of the video, I'll give you a quick tip on how to easily get ideas for this part. We'll try to do 20 songs and have the songs be instrumental. So when we click on submit, what that will do is load that input into n8n. And so that is what we need for this very first trigger. Now, the next thing we want is an HTTP request, which is a useful node in n8n because it's the main way by which we can call on third-party tools from within this platform. And what we'll be doing here is we'll be posting a request into this URL, which you can see is powered by FFmpeg, which if you're new, FFmpeg is one of the most trusted auto video editing frameworks or technologies. It's been around since 24 years ago, but previously to use it, you'll need to know a lot of coding. But now there are services that let you use FFmpeg much easier. And this website website ffmpeg.api.com is one of them. And what we'll use them for is to stitch the videos and the music together in the end. But we just need to create this node in the beginning, because what we'll be doing is creating a directory or a folder within their services so that we can upload the music files there, which you will see in a bit. So just to be clear what this node will do, you can just rename it. And the great thing about FFmpeg API is that they have a really good free trial. And when you sign in, you instantly have 10 gigabytes worth of processing power, which you can use here. And so to link your account here into n8n, just go ahead and click on Generate Credential Type here in the authentication. Click on Header Auth. And under here, this is where you can create a new credential, name it with something memorable. And then for the name, just type in authorization. And for the value, just change it to expression. And then you can copy this authorization header piece here and place that there. So it will look something like this, and click on Save. And when you have that credential selected, you should now be able to use this website services. So that's all the setup you need for now. So now when we execute this step, what it will now do is create this folder for us, which we'll be using in a later node. So that is the input section already done. Next, we'll be loading our image to use in the video. And to do that, just go ahead and extend this, set up another HTTP request, and this one will be to create a path where we will upload our image. And this one we need because when we use FFmpeg to stitch videos together automatically, the files that will combine need to be uploaded in the cloud or in the internet, basically. So what we'll do here is post a request into this URL. So once again, powered by that same FFmpeg service. You want your credential type to be set to the FFmpeg credential that you just created. But this time we'll be posting a request. So we need a body of a message, which we can just set up as using JSON or JavaScript object notation. So just change this to expression and paste this script here. And whenever you see these brackets and braces, that's basically what JSON is. It's just a structured way to pass in data to these services. So here you can see we're asking FFmpeg to create a file path for us for this image. And this green text, if you see the preview here, it just points to this folder that we created in the previous node. So if we execute this step, what it just did for us is create this file path and also this upload URL, which is where we will be uploading our image. And so to make this seamless for the user, the next node that you want is another n8n form, clicking this next form page. And this one will be to get the image data itself. And here we just add in one field for the user to upload their image and set it as file. And so when we execute this step, this will now ask the user to upload their image here. And for this test, we'll be using this image of a golden nugget floating in space. And in case you don't have an image yet, a simple way to do it is to go to Google Gemini and have it create the image that you want and just crop this out to landscape if you need a landscape photo. But if you want a bit more control, what I usually recommend is this Seedream API over at key.ai, which we'll discuss more later in the tutorial. But if you go to their text to image, you can give it that same prompt, and here you can declare the aspect ratio and also the image resolution and the number of images that you want to generate. And so that way you can just pre-select which ones you like from this list. And the other good thing about it is if you go to their edit model here, you can upload your reference image and just dictate what elements you want replaced there. So if you're creating this for a YouTube channel, for example, then this is an easy way for you to get consistency across your images and thumbnails. So if you take a look at this channel, you can see that that is partially what they're doing. So now we'll submit and upload this photo. And what this will do is load that image into our n8n automation. So if we view that, we can preview it here. And next thing we'll do is we'll put that image into our image path that we just created. So just rename this to upload image, change the method to put. And for the URL, you can just drag this piece over to this field. We'll toggle on this body because that is where we will load our file. So just select n8n binary file here. And then on the data field name, if we go to the binary tab here in the input, what we'll do is just copy this name and put that into this field so that basically when we execute this step, what this node will do is put the data of this image into this upload URL. So when this is successful, you can move on to the next step, which is just to verify that we uploaded it. So to do this, just go ahead and copy this earlier node just so that it's easier. Link that there. And if we open that, just rename this to check image, change the method to get. And for the URL, what we want to do is to change this to an expression and then paste in this value, which is where your image has been uploaded. So you can see here, it's mapping back to the file path that we created earlier, which came from this specific node. So if we execute that step, if it shows you a file there, that means that you have uploaded your file successfully. So that's step one already done. Now we'll create the music itself. And the way to do this is first you want an AI agent. You can rename it if you wish, but the important part here is to change this to define below. And here we'll provide it a user prompt. So if we just change that to expression and then click here, so you can see, we can copy in this piece of text, which you can see, we're just giving it information on the theme we selected, the prompt and style for the music, and the number of songs that we want. And you can see here that all of them are being mapped coming from the very first form node that we created. But with every AI agent, you also want to add in a system guideline. So by adding it here in the options, you can just change this to expression so that you can expand it once again. And if you remove this and copy in the system prompt that we made, You'll see this aligns with the agent framework, which is part of what we teach in the RoboNuggets community. Basically, we have a clear ask of what this agent will be giving us, some guidelines on what it should and should not do, some good and bad examples, the notation or structure of the output that we want, as well as the tools that it may have access to, which is optional in this case. And the last thing we want here is to require specific output format toggled on so that we can declare the output structure that we want, which you'll see later. But if we execute this step, it's going to look for a chat model. So if you look here, there are some sub nodes at the bottom. And here in the chat model, you'll see there are a lot of familiar names in here. So we can just use OpenAI. And here you can create your credential. If you haven't yet, it's just going to ask for an API key, which you can get via this link. And for this case, we'll be using GPT 4.1. So that's now set up. Last thing we want here is this output parser, which you can just select this structured output parser. And what this will do is guide your agent in what is the type of output that you want. So this is just an example. So you can just delete that and just replace it with this text, where essentially you will be asking for a prompt for the song, the style of the music, and the title of that song itself. So you'll see this more in just a bit. When we go to this Song Robo AI agent and click run, what it's now going to do is take in your inputs and use the OpenAI chat model to think about 20 songs that it will produce. So when that's done, when we open up this AI agent again, you can see that it produced several songs, or at least prompts for the songs. And there's 20 of these in total, which are all unique and which we'll be creating songs for in just a bit. So next thing we want is a simple split out node. And here all you need is to drag this song field into the fields to split out, because what this will be doing is to just ungroup those songs into individual items so that we can pass them one by one into the service we'll be using. And this time we'll be creating the songs themselves. So we'll add another HTTP request, rename this to create songs, change the method to post, and we'll be posting a request to this URL. And the service is called key.ai, which if you're new is basically an AI model aggregator. So they have a lot of models here that we can use and connect directly and use in our automations. And so if you go to their API market, if we search for SUNO, that is the model that we'll be using. And in this page, you can actually test this model directly. But for us to use it in an automation, you'll need to read through this API documentation that they have, which we've already done. And so this is the URL that you need to send our requests to. And for us to use KAI services, if in case you haven't set this up before, similar to earlier where you just set up a header auth and then just add a new credential here. You want to type in authorization for the name, and for the value, if you change this to expression so that you can see the way it's set up for KAI is to type in bearer space and then paste your API key in here, which you can get coming from this link. It will now look something like this, and just click on save. And so now you can use KAI for SUNO to create our music and all of their other models as well. Last thing you want here is to toggle this send body as on and specify the body using JSON. If we change this to expression and expand it so we can see, zoom that out a bit, we can paste in this expression, which is what KAI accepts. We're passing on the prompt that we requested, the style of the song itself, as well as the title, and the choice we made earlier on whether we want an instrumental song or not. There's also other fields here which you can just read through in KAI's documentation or ask ChatGPT about. But the important point to note here is that if I shuffle through these result items, what we're actually going to do is pass on 20 items one at a time so that we can make those requests and those songs. So now if I execute this step, what it should now give me, if I go to the table view here, is 20 items where you have a status of 200, which means that the request was successfully submitted. And so now we just need to wait a bit for those generations to finish. So if you type in a wait node here, we'll be setting this to a longer duration later on. But for now, just do 5 seconds so that we can continue building this out. So if I execute that step, what it just did is continue the automation for us so that we can set up the node to get those songs. So to do that, just go ahead and copy this earlier node, link that there. Change this to get songs so that we know what it does. Change the method to get. And the URL, we just need to change this to this URL where we'll be getting the songs. The credential stays the same, but for this one, instead of sending a body, what we actually need is to send in a query parameter for the task ID, which if you unfurl this create songs, this is where you'll find it. And if I execute that step, what it should now give you is the status of each of those generations. So there's a lot of text here, but the important thing to look at is this status field. So since some songs are still generating, what I recommend for this case is to just set up a switch node. And what you want to do here is to add another routing rule and just go ahead and rename both of them, because this one will be a branch for when the song is already completed or successful. And this one will be a branch for when the song is still in progress. So before we finish setting that up, you can see that it just created 2 branches for us, where if it's a success, we'll continue with the workflow. But if it's still in progress, what we'll do is just wait a bit and map that back so that we can wait for the generation to finish. But to set that up in this automation, what you want to do is to drag this status field here and check if this value is already equating to success, because that means the song is already ready. But for this second branch, if I drag the status here, you can just change this to string and matches regex and just type in this value. Because with KAI's SUNO instance, there's actually several status values here that all mean that the song is still in progress. So what this will do is just capture all of that and map it into this in progress branch. So if I execute this step, since some time has passed, you can see that 20 of our songs are now ready. And so they're mapped to the success branch already. And so the final node we'll need for this step is going to be a Google Sheets node, specifically the append row in sheet action, because this one will be just for us to log our songs. And this is just for best practice so that you have a copy of those songs that you generate before combining them. And to set this up, just go ahead and connect your Google account through here. And once you sign in with Google, n8n should now be able to find your Google Sheets, which you can select here. And for this one, we'll be selecting this template and this songs sheet, which if you're in the community, you can just go ahead and find it here. But if we go to that template, it's quite simple. There's only 4 columns because what we'll be doing here is just log our songs into this sheet. So to do that, we just need to map those values into these columns. In these 3, we can just find it in the switch node that we made earlier. So if you look under SUNO data, this is where you'll find the URL for the song. You'll also find here the title of the song. And finally, the duration, which is the duration of the song in seconds. And then for the theme, just for tracking purposes, you can find this in the very first node that you set up, which is this piece that we typed. So in case this errors for you, what you can do is to just replace that item word into first open close parenthesis. And when we execute this step, what it now did is load those 20 songs for us along with the song URLs. And if we click on any of these, we can actually preview them. All right, that sounds really good. And with that, we can now proceed to loading the songs so that we can get ready with combining them into one video. And to make this easy, what I actually recommend is just highlighting all of these nodes and hitting Control D just so that you can copy them. Because in this case, what we'll do is just upload the songs instead of the images. So just go ahead and map this into this starting node. And if we open that and set that up, we rename this to Path for Songs. Everything here should remain the same. But this JSON, you just want to replace that body of your request into something like this. So if you open that, it's the same structure as before. But basically what we're doing is just give it a title, same to the title of the song, as well as this unique execution ID. Because what's important in this case is that the file name should be unique as per FFmpeg's documentation. We still provide our directory here, which you can see we're still mapping to that very first create folder node that we did earlier. So now if we execute this step, what it should now give you is 20 items, where for each of them you have this upload URL as well as this file path, which now contains your title and this unique execution ID. And so now we'll be loading the songs into those upload URLs. But this time, since the songs are already here, we actually just want to delete this one and to just add a new node within this. It's going to be an HTTP request. Change this name to get song data just so you know what it does. And for the URL, you can just grab the URL coming from your Google Sheets node and place it there. And when we execute this step, what this node will now do is go through each of those song URLs and load their data into n8n's instance, which is why when you go to the binary tab here, you'll see 20 MP3 files now loaded into this automation. And so now these 20 items are carrying the data of those MP3 files. What we'll now do is open this, change it to upload songs. This URL, if you go back to schema, you can see that it's basically pointing to the upload URL, which is this one, from the path for songs node that we created earlier. And what we'll be doing is sending or uploading a file into those URLs with this data field name. So since this one was for the image, we just remove that and we just copy the name of our data here, which is literally data in this case. So when you have that set up and click execute step, it should now give you a success and 20 items. But in this case, there's no preview of it. So we just have to open and run this check node once again, but this time is to check for the songs. So this should be all set up. Just make sure to toggle the send body as off. And when we execute this step, what it is just going to do is to return those 20 items back to us, but this time confirm that the file has been uploaded for all of them. And so that's step 3 now done. So now finally, what we'll be doing is to combine all of those songs and also the image that we uploaded into one video. So the way you do that is through this output section, which will begin by doing an aggregate node and just drag this file info from the previous node in here and click execute step. And what that will simply do is aggregate or group these 20 items into one item, which is what we need in order to combine them together. Because the next node that we'll set up is going to be this code node. So if you select this JavaScript option, rename this as FFmpeg, what this node will basically do is construct the FFmpeg command for us. Because the way FFmpeg works is sort of like coding, but thankfully this time with ChatGPT and other AI models, you can offload that task to them. And so this code node, I'll just delete this placeholder here and paste in this script that I had ChatGPT make for me. So if I expand that so that you can see, you can just take a screenshot of this and paste it to ChatGPT if you want to understand how it works. But what's important here is when I execute this step, what it now did is give me this item called FFmpeg_job, which if you inspect that, what that basically does is summarize all of your songs as well as the image here at the top, and then provide the FFmpeg command here at the bottom. And what that command will do is basically just stitch those songs together one by one and have the image run through the whole video. If in case this failed for you, do check if you named your nodes correctly. So since we're loading the images file path here, you can see that we also look at the check image node previously, which would be this one. So if you renamed it as something else, then this code will fail. But now that we have the command and we have those files uploaded into FFmpeg API's servers or computer, last thing we want here is to just have an HTTP request where we will be combining those files. We'll be posting a request. And as per FFmpeg API, this is the URL to send that to. We have our credentials selected here. And in the body, we just want to use JSON once again, change this to expression. And then if we expand this, you can type this in. And what that will do is use the FFmpeg job and provide this command that FFmpeg API will now process for us. So when we execute that step, that will take a while depending on how many songs you create. But when that has finished, it will now give you this download URL, which is the final step. We will log into our Google Sheet. So to do that easily, just copy this in, link it accordingly. And if I open this, we could just rename this as the final video. We'll be using that same document, but we also made this videos tab for it, which if we navigate to that tab, you'll see we just have these columns in order to log our final video. And so this final video, you can just get it from the preceding node here. But for logging purposes, you want the theme from the very first node in order for you to understand what this collection will be. And finally, I also recommend just adding in the timestamp there so that you have a record on when it was generated. So if we execute this step, what that now did is just append that final video into this Google Sheet, which if you click on that, that will let you preview your video in full. And here you can see it's 15 minutes long because it's 20 songs in total. And now you can listen to it in full if you want. And so with that set up, the last thing you want to do is to just go back to this wait node and just change this to a longer time. So if you're creating an hour-long video, the interval that I found is roughly around 15 minutes is good to set for this node. And so that is the workflow now fully complete. Now, if in case you want to auto-publish to YouTube, you can just add these nodes. We're basically here. We're just getting the file from the final video and loading it here into n8n's instance. And then we have this YouTube node where we have our YouTube account connected and where we are uploading the videos file onto YouTube itself. And if you need a full guide on how to set up that YouTube node, you can just watch this previous lesson. And in case you are uploading to YouTube, one useful tip is to add in timestamps, because what that will do is just allow your viewers to select which song they want, which is just a much better experience in my view. So I made this custom GPT for everyone, which if you go back to your songs here, if you just copy all of this columns, including the duration, and paste it here, it will automatically analyze that piece of text and give you the timestamps that you can paste directly in YouTube. And another way to use this GPT is if you want, let's say, 3 more ideas for new albums within this field, it will give you that as well. And you can plug this in whenever you fill in this form, which by the way, if you are setting this up, let's say for a client, what you can just do is change this to active. And if you open this form node, that will give you this production URL, which when you paste that in any browser, that will let you submit the form, then upload your cover image. And when you submit this, the automation will run on the background to create those videos for you. And finally, if you're curious on the costs, and what's really crazy is how cheap this has gotten over the past few months. So for every song that you generate, it's only 6 cents. And so to create a 50-minute to 1 hour long video, which has 20 songs in there, it's only $1.20. And the only other tool we use is FFmpeg API, which we're using just the free tier. And so this becomes a really good cost-efficient solution, even if you're not into uploading on YouTube and you do some background music for an event or for your clients. It's almost always better to get it via SUNO, because I think it's much cheaper now versus stock music websites. And it's all enabled by this workflow, which again, you can just grab the template for in the RoboNuggets community. There's several more lessons here around creating with AI and automation. And we also have a lot of members here who are sharing their wins and also paid opportunities and partnership collaborations. So if that's something that you are looking for, then check that out to see if that's for you. And if this gave you value in any way, then consider subscribing in this platform as well if you haven't yet, because it helps us a lot to put out more educational content like this. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.